asking if there's a lot of difference between the root of each of those words. Hopefully that is. Let me go check. Isa.63 5. Samach, to uphold, and then the other one was, yeah, I'm not sure what you said. Daniel chapter 10:21. Okay, thank you. Hazak. Okay. Yeah, hazak has to do with strength, as in upholds, as in strengthens, make sure that it gets fulfilled, that it happens, or that it doesn't happen. In this case, that the prince wouldn't take over yet, while Mashiach appeared before Daniel to tell him everything that was going to happen. Hazak has to do with strength, is the root of Chizkiyahu. And Samak, yeah, it's completely a different root. Samak, it has to do with support, lean, or sustain. Both with being supported and supporting, depending on how you use the the verb. But it's more seen as to place or to lay, because in Hebrew also those words that are with samech and shin can be the shin and the samech can be interchanged, and when you do that with this word, you can see the root as there. So, meaning that samach has to do mainly with putting something somewhere, leaning or being supported by something, or supporting something, therefore putting something on your hand, for instance. So the other one has to do with strength, doing something, um, being strong, and the other one has to do with supporting or holding.